And I will try to make a practice of recording all of our synchronous calls just in the event. I know we're still very much living in the COVID world. And so in the event that folks are unable to attend, I will do my best to make sure that you have the content available to go back and watch online as needed. I will go over the attendance policy. It's outlined in the syllabus, but I do understand that, you know, things come up and, you know, we're all still dealing with the unknown in terms of whether or not we'll be sick or isolated or all of those things. I think at present we have a couple of classmates in this course that are under the weather with COVID. And so I do try to be understanding of that type of thing. So that being said, I am recording and I'm going to jump into a PowerPoint that just gives a little bit of a course overview. We'll talk about this initially, and then we'll take a look at the syllabus document itself, and then at the As You Learn course page, which you may have already accessed by this point, but we'll touch on a couple of things together. Okay, so I sent you an introductory video through a mobile syllabus, and the intention of that is really just to be kind of a quick and dirty, if you will, look at the course. So you can look at it from your cell phone without having to go through the As You Learn site. And it will, you know, it breaks down specific assignments, some grading, things like that. But again, it's just a really quick look at the course. You will need the actual syllabus document, which is also on the course page for more in-depth information. But I'm trying to share my screen with you guys. And I'm just going to take a few more minutes. I know I sent that introduction video, but I do want to just kind of spend a few minutes getting to know you-ish. I know it's kind of hard to feel like we're getting to know one another in the online space. And I'm going to start with the observation that right now I can't see anything except black squares with individuals' names on them. So it's going to be really hard for me to connect with you if I never get to see your face associated with your name. So the first kind of point of housekeeping that I will ask is that if you are available and able to, if you would please turn your cameras on so that I can see your lovely faces. It becomes really difficult for me as an instructor to talk into the black abyss over and over. And I know there's kind of a trend every semester where we start out with faces and then we kind of fade off into the black abyss. And that just never feels good to me. So if I can see you, I would really appreciate that. And thank you for everyone who's showing up now. I do want to draw your attention to my email address because that will be the quickest way to reach me. Can you guys see my contact information here? Email is definitely the easiest way to get me. I'm pretty responsive that way. I'm almost always, have my phone in my hand, but my email is not intuitive like the email addresses at App normally are. So it's not Carter. It's actually my maiden name from back when I was a student. And I found through human resources that was incredibly difficult to get changed. So I've just left it alone, but you can reach me at nelsonjb@appstate.edu. And again, that's the easiest way to get me if you need to reach out about, an absence that you're going to need to have, or, some support in terms of assignment guidance, anything like that. I don't have official office hours because my office is at home, but you can reach out to me and let me know if you need to schedule a one-on-one meeting. I have a lot of flexibility and I'm always happy to meet with folks on an as needed basis if you feel like that's something that you want to do. So again, just reach out. Just a little bit more about me as a human, because I do want to feel like we are getting to know one another this semester. I've included some just like bits and pieces of myself and my life, pictures of me with my family over here in the bottom left corner. my husband beside me, and then we have 2 children. I've mentioned, I think they're 7 and 4, and I do homeschool them. So they're in the other room entertaining themselves for the hour that we are together, but occasionally we may get interrupted because I have 2 children in the home. And so if you'll just be understanding of that with me, I would appreciate it. I included this little picture of my youngest when she was an infant. This is one of the experiences that I'm most proud of, I think, in my career. About 3 years ago, I guess, I was selected because of some advocacy work that I was doing at the local level in Ashe County with an initiative called Think Babies, North Carolina. I was selected to go to Washington, D.C. with my family to represent the state of North Carolina in advocating for the importance of early childhood education and early childhood programs. And so this is my daughter, Ashlyn, when she was about 7 months old, I think. And we went to the legislative offices. We had a big rally out on the Washington Mall, and we were really just trying to raise awareness at the, the national level about the importance of quality early childhood programs, what that means for families and children. Advocacy work is something that I'm pretty passionate about, and even though I've kind of shifted in my roles recently, as I mentioned, to teaching from home, I've got a lot of years of experience in the field of early childhood, kind of in direct care work. So right beside the picture of her is an example of that. These kiddos that you see sitting on the giant rubber duck. This is a picture from the center that I used to be the director at, Generations. And we actually created, I'm sure you probably saw, like, it was a Facebook trend a couple years ago, the giant slip and slides out on the lawn. We did this, and part of what was so unique about our program is that we were intergenerational in nature. And so the adults that you see down here are adults that attended our Adult Day Health Center, which is a day program for folks that need respite care. They live at home but need a place to be during the day. And then there's also an assisted living facility on site. And so we had all of the adults and children ages, 2 to 3 to some 90-year-olds out riding this giant duck on the slip and slide. And it was just a really fun day out in the sun. That was a big component of our program, and something that you don't see that model everywhere. There's a lot of benefits, I think, to children as well as adults in that intergenerational model. So that's something that I hold really dear about that work. I've got a picture of my poodles, picture of me running, the ETSU Buccaneers logo. I mentioned that I'm a student there as well. And so, like I said in my first video, I totally understand the challenges of being a working, momming student. And, I try to help just support you guys in whatever way I can to help you navigate these times where we're kind of living in the online squares more than probably most of us are comfortable with. As I've mentioned, homeschooling is a new adventure that we've taken on, and I love this picture. It's an example of my 2 girls. We've gotten involved in a group called Wild and Free, and it's just a conglomeration of homeschool families in the area. We meet up every Wednesday at different locations and take the children out on a hike. And then they spend a couple of hours playing, just free play outdoors in nature. It's been really refreshing for me to see children all the way up to 10, 12-year-olds, doing pretend imaginative play outside with one another. Because I think a lot of times our society kind of squashes that out before children get to that 10, 11, 12-year-old mark. But it's been really refreshing for me and really kind of validates what I believe about young children and middle-aged children, is that if we cultivate those experiences for them, that they are eager and willing to kind of still play and be free and be children, even at that older age. So questions for you guys. I created a Zoom poll. I'm going to launch it now, and I just kind of want to hear back from you. What year are you in your studies? and then what is your program of study or your major. Give it a few more minutes. We've got almost everybody responding at this point.
My major is neither of these.
A couple of people are maybe not able to, so I'm gonna call it out. We've got 47 out of 50. Looks like the large majority of the classes, maybe freshmen and sophomores, and then a handful, about a quarter of you guys are juniors and a handful of seniors. And then most everyone is either from family and child studies or psychology. Actually, not true. Most everyone is from something else. So if you'll do me a favor, if you are not in the psych or family and child studies major, type into the chat where you're coming to us from. This just kind of helps me understand, you know, how to tailor the content and what you guys are interested in. So for folks, if anyone would be willing to unmute and tell me, like, if you're from the marketing, political science, those kind of unrelated to human services fields, what drew you to cellular and molecular biology? Wow. What drew you to wanting to take this course as an elective, I assume?
Well, my name is Haley and I'm a geography major. I decided to take this class just because I thought it would be interesting, you know, like learning about like how families develop and stuff. And I needed more credit hours. So I was like, I might as well take a class that's interesting to me.
Sure. Yeah. I think we can all relate to the course, right? Because we all find ourselves situated within a family. And we're going to talk about tons of different family models and different you know, ideas related to relationships, but the reality for everyone is that we spend our lives relating to other people, right? That's the human condition. And so the hope is that something that you know, are exposed to in this class will either help you in your own relationships or help you maybe be more understanding of other people that you come into contact with and their relationships. I think, you know, until we really understand ourselves and kind of how we function in terms of how we relate to other people, you know, relating to other people is work. It's harder than it appears on the surface. And so understanding the kind of ins and outs of that from a, you know, sort of psychological, theoretical perspective can be super helpful just to us as people, right? I think I scrolled forward, so I have a couple more questions, and we can just use the chat feature to go through these. Can you please type in one word that you would use to describe yourself? I'm seeing words like caring, kind, hardworking, empathetic, friendly, respectful, introvert, adventurous, empathetic again, compassionate. So a lot of these words like caring, compassionate, empathetic, I think of those types of personality characteristics when I think about human services, right? This is a human services field course. And so I think people who kind of naturally associate with those type of words, you know, we find ourselves often working with other people in these types of fields. And so I would just use that information to kind of validate that we're all in the right place. And then, you know, when I saw the word introvert, that kind of drew my thinking to some of our course content that we'll be talking about later on, how our, you know, our tendencies, like are we passive or assertive, how those type of temperament traits show up in our relationships with other people. And so we're going to talk more about that coming up in the class. What about a word that you would use to describe your own family? Crazy, right? That's the first word that comes to everyone's mind. No. Close, broken, disoriented. Yeah, so loving, where family dynamics. I was having this conversation recently with someone. Chaotic, complex, that's a great word. Yeah, family dynamics are complex, right? They're really different in every family, but also I think we have more similarities than what we often acknowledge on the surface. And I was having a conversation recently with someone about dysfunctional families and dysfunction in the family, right? That's a spectrum and a continuum, and we all find ourselves somewhere on that continuum. No family is without some level of dysfunction or challenge, I think, because we're people, right? And we're all a little bit flawed. Imperfect was one of the words I think I saw. And so, yeah, again, the work that we're going to be doing in this course will hopefully help you either better understand where you find your own family kind of located on that continuum or on that spectrum. Or maybe, for folks who identify as being from a broken or there was another word that came up. I can't recall it at the moment, but from that type of family, maybe something that you learn in this class is going to help you shift that dynamic, right? So that when you move into your own family, or if you're already in your own family of procreation, which is a concept we'll talk about more, that you're able to kind of shift that and make some changes so that things are different this time around. And that's hopeful, I think. So and then someone was already willing to unmute and share the reason that they selected this class as an elective. Would anybody else be willing to hop off mute and tell me something that you want to get out of this course?
I'm a special education major, and I feel like this class could help get to know families with the kids I'm going to be working with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that's going to find themselves in education, or really, any sort of public service work, even, those more business oriented backgrounds, this is useful information that will help you relate to the people and families that you're working with, for sure. I didn't start with this, but I do want to kind of back up and ask for everyone that's on the call to please type your name into the chat. I'm going to use that as our record of attendance when we have synchronous meetings. So if you'll just go ahead and type your first and last name, please, into the chat, and then I can go back and log that afterwards. And so with that, I'm going to kind of jump into the model of the class. We will be 100% online, and we're going to have synchronous class meetings. I've scheduled those on the syllabus for every Monday at 10 a.m. Okay. With the understanding that next Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so it will be an asynchronous day. And I've already recorded the lecture for you guys to just access on your own time next week. But generally speaking, we will meet on Mondays at 10 a.m. Wednesdays will almost always be asynchronous. Unless as we get closer to, the midterm and the final, and we need to meet for like content review or something like that. But I don't have plans for us to meet on Wednesdays. However, there may be times where an exam is falling on that async day. And so you'll need to make sure that you still have the 10 o'clock window blocked off for, committing to this course. Because if I have a test or something like that scheduled, I have it, available and live during that block of time. So, don't completely throw Wednesdays out, but do understand that most everything you'll need to do on Wednesdays will be asynchronous. So you can kind of work at that on your own time. Course description is, I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
Yeah, I had a question real quick. I'm sorry. So, like when I was looking at my time schedule thing, it has the 10 a.m. on Wednesday blocked off. Mm-hmm. So we won't have to meet unless you say something about us needing to meet on Wednesdays.
Correct. Yeah, Wednesdays.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yep, you got it. But okay, as I said, a caveat to that is that sometimes there will be an expectation that you're doing something live online for the course during that time. So, don't ask your boss to schedule you on Wednesdays because you might miss out on something in the class. And yeah, just kind of on that note, online courses tend to be a little bit more flexible in nature. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about working in this space, but it's also a challenge of this space, right? And I've kind of learned over the past few semesters of doing things completely online my model is typically to be more flexible than not and to give folks a lot of leeway. But I think that has come back to kind of haunt me the past couple of semesters. So I'm going to try to tighten it up just a little bit this semester. I'm going to be a little bit more, I don't want to use the word strict, but I can't think of a better word, a little stricter in terms of like late assignments, missed classes, that type of thing, because I think I have found that the level of flexibility that I've been offering isn't really serving students or me. So, and that's all specifically spelled out in the syllabus. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but basically just the intention of this class is to look at theories, patterns, structures, and the function of families in their very diverse in the very diverse ways that families exist in our culture and society. This piece is something that I do want to just kind of take a few minutes to talk through. This is conduct built on an atmosphere of mutual respect, right? I'm going to just go ahead and say that we're going to be talking about maybe some hot topic items in this class. And we're also going to be talking about things that are sometimes sexual in nature. There could be, just some controversial conversation that we're going to have. And I want this to be a space where all ideas and opinions are welcome and respectfully shared, right? And on that note, I want you guys to share. I want to structure this so that I get really tired of doing all the talking. And so sometimes I'm going to have it kind of a flipped classroom, if you will, where you guys are expected to do the reading before we come together. And then I'm going to hear from you about the ideas that we want to kind of highlight from the text. Okay. I'm not just going to be talking in the lecture format every class. There will be space for that for sure. But I want this to be a conversation where we all have the opportunity to share thoughts and ideas, again, in a respectful and, respectful way. Course objectives are spelled out in a couple different places, and so you can look over those on your own time. I do need to mention to you guys about the textbook. There was a bit of a snafu at the bookstore, and so what I think a handful of people, maybe 10 to 20 folks, were renting the 12th edition of this text, Choices in Relationships. That's not what I requested from the bookstore. I am using the 13th edition, and it looks like this. The covers are different. So I went back, I noticed this glitch, I think on Friday, and I went back and connected with the bookstore. They're getting it corrected. So if you have the hard copy 12th edition text, you can just return that to the bookstore at some point, and this 13th edition is going to be available in your Vital Source. It may already be there, I haven't checked, but I did get an email Saturday, I think, that it had been processed. So if it's not there yet, it will be there hopefully by today sometime. I don't know if anyone's looking at that. If you want to thumbs up and confirm if you can see it or not, that would be useful to me. I don't want to get too much going on the computer while I'm trying to talk. Does anybody know if they have this text available in the rental space? Okay, well, like I said, if it's not there yet, it's coming. And so that's the book you'll need. Again, the next class is going to be asynchronous. You will need to read chapter 1, but the content from chapter 1 is pretty clearly included in a PowerPoint, and I've got my lecture recorded on As You Learn. So you'll have everything you need for the first week or so if the text isn't in place. Okay, so nobody panic. Going to use a variety of opportunities for learning in terms of online content and live synchronous stuff that we'll do together. The grading for the class is pretty basic, and I will just kind of point out that this is a lower points class, so things are worth more. There's 3 exams, they're each worth 100 points, so you got 300 points coming from that. I'll talk about the reflections a little bit more in just a minute, but you're going to do 10 written reflections throughout the course. They're worth 10 points each. There's a very specific rubric and assignment guidelines posted on the course page for that. And then you will get 50 points for attendance and participation in class, right? So one of those items is going to come from you typing your name into the chat. And me just knowing that you're here. And then when we do breakout groups or some sort of, flipped classroom style of teaching, I will expect that you guys are active and engaged in that way. And that's how you'll get your participation points for class. I just said all this. I will likely not be tallying up participation grades until the end of the semester, unless someone reaches out to me and specifically asks for that. That's kind of like a tedium that I normally save because I'm a procrastinator. I save that until the end of the semester as part of my kind of final push to final grading. So if you need that, let me know, but hopefully you'll be present and accounted for, and you'll all be like, I'm good on that. I don't need to ask. Okay, that's the hope. Okay, so for attendance, if you miss more than 2 synchronous classes, and so they're only happening like loosely once a week, it's not a big ask, I don't think, for me to require that you're here once a week showing up, with the understanding that you'll miss one because life, right? But if you need to miss more than 2 classes, you will start losing points off your grade, and it's a pretty big number. You'll likely shift from an A to a B or a B to a C if you hit that more than 2 mark. So please be communicative with me. Again, I understand, if you're sick with COVID and you can't get out of bed, I don't expect you to lay there with your Zoom screen on. So it's not a black and white. I get that we're all living in the gray area, but I do need to hear from you, and I need to know what's going on with you so that I can help you out. Okay. And late assignments, they're going to be -5 points for each day late. And then if it's more than a week coming in after the due date, I will not be able to accept it. That's not going to be super impactful because with the exception of like a few little online check-in things, which I'll talk more about in just a second, the bulk of your work is going to be the midterm point and the final. So you'll turn in 5 of those written reflections around the midterm of the class. And then the other 6 to 10, you'll turn in close to the end of the semester. So there's not a whole lot of like, weekly or bi-weekly assignments to keep up with. That being said, the only way for me to kind of hold you guys accountable and to know that you're accessing the asynchronous content is, in those formats that we've all come to know and love, right? Online discussion forums, little mini assignments that I post to the class page. And so I'll just go ahead and say I'm not a huge fan of online discussion forums personally, I guess, because I do so much of them in my own schooling. I find them kind of cumbersome to keep up with, and all the back and forth, you end up feeling like you're saying the same thing over and over. I get all that. And so I'm not going to require a whole lot of that in terms of dialoguing with other students. But the only way for me to know that you've accessed and kind of understood some of the content is for me to sometimes post those forums for you to either write a small reflection about the ideas presented, or maybe to do like a flip grid or something like that. So I kind of try to mix it up. But I will have opportunities like that kind of sprinkled in on those async days, because that's the only way that, I know that we're getting what we need together. Okay. I've included in here all of the university policies regarding integrity, academic integrity, disability services. If you have accommodations that you need, you should have already contacted ODR, and I will likely have your information on file, but I encourage you, again, please reach out to me and let me know what I need to be doing to support you if you do need accommodations for the course. Okay, that's up to you to connect with me on, and I'm happy to do whatever I can. Inclement weather is not really going to apply. I know we all love the snow day, but if we're meeting online and it's snowing outside, we can still meet online, right? It will be a rare occasion, I think, that I have to cancel class, but if I do, I'll let you know within 2 hours of our class meeting time. And I will do my very best to show up the once a week that we're coming together. Just a little bit of computer laptop etiquette. I can kind of see when folks are, completely checked out and they're doing other things online. And so that's distracting for me and doesn't serve you, at all. So I do ask that while you're here, you treat it like a classroom where you're, present, engaged, accounted for, and that you're not doing other things in the background on your computer. And again, as I asked at the beginning, if you could please keep your cameras on to the extent possible. It just really makes for a better experience, I think, for all of us. And we all know to keep our mics muted, but occasionally that, that slips. That's like basic Zoom life now, right? Yeah, so basically just confidentiality in terms of, who shares what in this space. Again, I said I want this to be an open space, a safe space for us to share ideas, to kind of have a healthy dialogue about some of these issues that we're going to be talking about. So that's going to require a level of engagement from you all, but also respectful and courteous interactions. And that is the course in a nutshell. I'm going to stop my share and kind of shift gears. Does anyone have any questions on anything we just talked about before we move into specific?
So the online book says in the bookstore that it's available online, but in my materials, it says that there's no book available.
Okay. I am assuming that's just because they haven't done the final piece of connecting it at the bookstore level. I'll keep an eye on it today and tomorrow. And if we haven't gotten it solidified by Wednesday, I'll reach out to the folks over there and make sure that we're on the same page. But you should be able to, and so you're talking about my materials on the course page? Yeah, it will be linked there. And I'll go ahead and share my screen to kind of look at that together. It will be linked at the top of our As You Learn page, choices in relationships. Is that what you guys see under the Zoom link? Yeah. So it should be able to, you just click here and access the text once they get everything squared away. And I apologize for that. I don't know what happened, but they do a lot. And, sometimes there's an error, and that's okay. So yeah, the Zoom link is right above that. You can always go there and find our class meeting. It will not change over the semester. And then the syllabus document, we're going to get into that in just a second, just to kind of look at the course overview in terms of the calendar and things like that. But just know that it's there for you to always access. And then I'm going to take a few minutes now to, before we get into those reflection assignments, we'll just look at how the course is outlined. It's pretty much going to look like this. I'm not fancy. I just, I get you what you need, but I don't have all the pretty thumbnails and things like that. But what you will see is week 1, week 2, I'm going to keep building the course as we go. And so you should have at least 2 weeks available to you at any given point in time. Again, I recognize that we're all operating under different circumstances, and sometimes people need to work ahead or, catch up, and that's all okay. So course overview is what we just went over. That's your class material for today, synchronous meeting. Then you'll see a label for class materials for Wednesday, asynchronous. This is the lecture that you need to watch, and that's the PowerPoint. I would encourage you guys to, I've left these PowerPoints very open-ended, and so I would encourage you to download those and use them kind of like a guided outline. You can type in the notes as content is kind of discussed, and that will help you really, with your note-taking and making sure that you have all the information that you need. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'll draw your attention to class materials for 119. These forums are going to be your assignments for that asynchronous day, right? So there's something to read. Kind of embedded within each of these is a little activity or reading, and then there's an assignment that goes along with it. They're short in nature, but again, that's how we come together asynchronously, right? Okay. For the written reflections, right here at the top of the class page, you will see that there are 2 assignment links. There's one for the 1 through 5 that you're going to be writing, and one for the 6 through 10. And the reason that it's going to become, I'm opening the rubric and the reflection assignment, but the reason that it's, one of the reasons that it's important that we are all using the same text is these reflection assignments are going to be drawn straight from your book, and I've given you a page number, which I don't think is the same between the 12th and the 13th edition. Okay. I'm sure you guys can figure it out if you end up using a different text, but there are these little like boxed in blurbs, 1 or 2 pages of a kind of focused topic in the text that you're going to read about, and then write me a summary and a reflection on. Okay. So as an example, the first one that you're going to be writing, and again, numbers 1 through 5 are going to be coming due at the midterm. I'll give you that date here in just a minute from the syllabus. But the first topic that you're going to be looking at is called marriage preparation / relationship programs. And so on page 18 of the text, there's a write-up about, what does that sort of relationship education for a new couple about to embark on married life? What does that look like? What's the intention of it? You're going to summarize that for me, and the assignment guidelines are right here. Please be sure to briefly summarize the topic, include connections to the course content and text. So that's going to mean that you have cited some pages from the book, some PowerPoint slides, something that we have discussed in class as it relates to this idea, okay? Because I know that we can all read and summarize. I want to see that you can analytically think about this content as it relates to our course. And then I also want you to include your own thoughts or reactions, which is that sort of reflective piece. So there are 3 components: summary, connections to course content, reflective thinking on the topic. Any questions on these? If you refer to the rubric, somebody have a question? Did you have a question, Corinne?
No, I didn't. Sorry. I was switching from my laptop to my phone.
I gotcha. No problem. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. You guys are seeing my screen, right, when I'm sharing that assignment. Okay, so I'm going to open the rubric file. You see that? This is what you need to know in terms of how these are going to be looked at. The project requirements. So I want to know that you've clearly described the selected topic, that your paper is thoroughly detailed and includes references as needed. I'm not hung up on formatting and things like that. Some of you in different majors might be using more MLA. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but most people I think are using APA at this point, but whatever works for you is okay with me as long as it's right. You need to, again, include connections to course content. I'm not going to read all of this. Do understand that this is a grading scale. It's for 100, so it's all of the rubrics put together, and they're worth 10 points each, right? So you can do basic math to kind of figure out how that shakes out one by one. But I will grade 1 through 5 at one time. They're worth 50 points. I will grade 6 through 10 all together at one time, because that's how you're turning them in. I don't want them along the way. That's overwhelming for you and overwhelming for me. However, I have given you guidelines in the syllabus so that you can kind of see how you need to be keeping up with these, because I don't want you to get close to the midterm and have to write, 8 to 10 pages or whatever, 5 to 8 pages, all at one time on topics that we talked about months ago. Oh no, I closed my window. I hate when that happens. That's okay. While I'm getting back to the class page, does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Or about anything that we've discussed so far? Okay. So just really quickly, I'm going to look at the class sort of organization with you and just highlight a couple of important dates. And then I will let you get back to your lives as they are. Okay. Again, lots more information about the course itself in the syllabus, but what I want to focus on is right here. Can you see this? Okay. So over here on week 2, January 17th, that's next week on Monday, right? I've got a little note in the far right assignment due column that says reflection 1 should be in progress. So if you want to keep up with these in the way that they're kind of organized in terms of relating to the content that we're talking about at that point in time, and keeping up with them so that they're not all hitting you at once, this is how you do it. Reflection 1 is going to be needing to start around January 17th. Reflection 2, 2 weeks later, kind of a week and a half later, you see how that goes. So I would encourage you again to keep up with that. And then just a couple other important dates to be aware of. February 17th will be our first exam. It falls on a Monday, which would be a synchronous class day. We will not meet that day. We will just have the exam live on As You Learn. Okay, and so sometimes it works like that. The second exam is scheduled for March the 2nd. And that will also be happening on As You Learn, but it's an async day. So that's one of those Wednesdays where you need to make sure that you're available to be at your computer, because the exams will be open for 1 hour during that day. And you'll just need to block out an hour where you can focus on the class and taking that test online. I think that's pretty much it. A large majority of the first part of the semester, we will have 2 class meetings kind of per topic area, and then we start to kind of rush along towards the end of the class, and we're just kind of hitting things a little bit more quickly, but for the most part you can expect probably 2 weeks per topic. And we'll start on Wednesday getting into this idea of choice in relationships. That's the name of the text. That's kind of the premise of the class. Yes. All right. Anybody need to say anything, share anything, ask anything? Okay, that's all I got. Just kind of wanted to orient you to our time together. Again, Nelson JB at App State. If you need anything, I encourage you to please reach out to me. And if that is it for the day, we will meet again on January 24th. So mark your calendars. We're not meeting next week because of the holiday. We will meet again on January 24th. And everything you need will be available on the class page between now and then. I'll send you guys an email if I find out anything about the book that's unexpected. Otherwise, just keep checking on that link at the top of the class page, and it should be there soon. Okay. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a good first week back to class and all that.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, you too.